Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. Chapter 46. The person who should cooperate with the performance turns and leaves. After a period of time together, Lu Yu's powerful and omnipotent image has taken root in the hearts of Hinamori Momo and Hitsugaya Toshiro. Even the captain could not dispel this impression. And that's exactly what Lu Yu is for. Of course, Lu Yu knew that Hitsugaya Toshiro and Hinamori Momo would feel that way. After all, this is what he planned. Lu Yu wouldn't let the two friends he cultivated so hard be abducted by others. Wouldn't that be a wedding dress for others? Besides, if you really want to believe Aizen's big swindle, it is really sold and you have to give people money. So when he was alone with the two before, Lu Yu would show his true strength from time to time. Accustomed to the impact of Lu Yu's powerful Reiatsu, watching the Reiatsu, the captain of the 5th division, the two felt that it was the same, nothing to be shocked. Although this Captain Aizen liberates all Reiatsu, the whole Seraiti will tremble. But unfortunately, Lu Yu knew that the other party was just like himself, so he could only hide his strength and keep a low profile. In this case, don't blame him for showing his strength and blocking all the space for the opponent to use tricks. This is the benefit of foresight. No matter how talented you are, you can't do anything about me. Don't worry too much. Maybe this captain is not good at strength. Facing the two obviously disappointed expressions, Lu Yu snickered, looked at Hitsugaya Toshiro who was protecting the water tank and continued, "Let's go. Go back. Otherwise your fish may dry up. Let's go. Let's go. Go now." Upon hearing this, Xiaobai immediately squeezed out of the crowd in a panic, and there was no need for a captain or a captain there. "Toshiro, wait for us, really," Hinamori Momo said angrily, and also turned and left with Lu Yu. At this time, the captain of the 5th division, Aizen Sosuke, had already held Kyoka Suigetsu in his right hand, ready to perform good health for all the students present. His Kyoka Suigetsu is complete hypnosis, and once he sees his Zanpakuto's Shikai, the 5 senses are completely controlled. In that case, Aizen can see what you want to see, whether it is sight, hearing, smell, touch, or even psychic senses will be manipulated. This is not a simple 5-sense deprivation, but a more advanced 5-sense control. Losing the 5 senses can immediately detect something is wrong, and then respond accordingly. Those who have been hit with Kyoka Suigetsu may have thought they were victors until the moment they died. With Aizen's IQ, Kyoka Suigetsu can easily be used to concoct a flawless truth. But that truth is only the moon in the mirror. When you kill your biggest enemy and feel hearty, you find that you are stabbing your closest childhood sweetheart. Not to mention that feeling. When Kyoka Suigetsu shatters, everyone falls asleep or wakes up from a nightmare. It can be said that as long as you watch Shikai of Aizen Kyoka Suigetsu, it is impossible to hurt Aizen again. Unless you touch the blade of Kyoka Suigetsu's body before the opponent activates his ability, then he will not be affected by Kyoka Suigetsu's ability. Complete hypnosis, the ability to dominate the senseless, coupled with Aizen's Reiatsu, one of the best in the entire Soul Society, is absolutely invincible. Originally, Aizen Sosuke planned well to show Kyoka Suigetsu's Shikai to the Spiritual Arts Academy students present. Previously, he had used this method to control students one after another. Today, most of the Shinigami of the Soul Society are under the control of his Kyoka Suigetsu. Aizen even walks in and out of Seraiti and Hawako Mundo like no one else, and can swagger to perform a perfect sneak. Today is the turn of this class of freshmen. As long as he controls these people, even if Aizen singles out the entire Seraiti, he can still be invincible. Kyoka Suigetsu is such a terrifying Zanpakuto. Once you are recruited, there is no way to do it, life and death are all tied to the hands. Several of the new students are good seedlings that Aizen has been paying attention to for a long time. There is also a super genius who is his main observation object today, and is also the highest priority control target. However, at the moment when Aizen was about to start, the key target and 2 good seedlings suddenly turned and left. This unexpected change and just the right timing made Aizen, who was deeply in the city, couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. The most important goal has slipped away. Should I pull this knife or not? Is it an unconscious coincidence or a conscious avoidance of these 3 people leaving midway? Because the timing was too good, Aizen couldn't help but doubt it. But only once, because that kind of thing is absolutely impossible. Even if there is a chance of 1 in a million, some of them know in advance the ability of Kyoku Suigetsu, so there is no need to run over and leave. Ichimaru Jin, who was behind him, seemed to sense the pause of his own captain, and squinted his eyes with an imperceptible sneer. This smile disappeared in a flash, and even if you noticed it, you would only think it was an illusion. In front of the luxurious dormitory apartment, Hinamori Momo bids farewell to Hitsugaya Toshiro and Luyu holding water jugs. After the two returned to the dormitory, Hitsugaya Toshiro looked at the small red carp in the water tank with a happy face. Zhao is very good, not afraid of freezing. Luyu. After being happy for a while, the little boy with his back to Luyu seemed to think that the two would be separated soon, and his mood suddenly fell. But I really want him to express the reluctance and worry in his heart. Hitsugaya Toshiro, who was in the age of rebellion, couldn't tell. In just a split second, Luyu noticed the little boy's loss, walked over and touched Hitsugaya Toshiro's short silver hair that was a little prickly. Why can't you bear me? At the beginning, you didn't want to live with me. You should grow up, Hitsugaya Toshiro. I'm no longer a child, don't touch my head. Hitsugaya Toshiro panicked, almost pulling out Hiranmaru from behind. Originally short, I still need to touch it. What if I can't grow taller? After such an interruption by Luyu, the sadness of the imminent parting was also diluted. Moreover, Hitsugaya Toshiro also wanted to understand. Without Luyu, I can live in a big house by myself. Soon, he can become Shinigami and catch up in Luyu's footsteps. As for transcending this monster, the longer he has been in contact with Luyu, the less confidence Hitsugaya Toshiro has. Even today's leader, Reiatsu alone, doesn't seem to be able to surpass Luyu. Such a monstrous guy, even a genius like Hitsugaya Toshiro has no confidence to surpass him. You also know my strength. It is impossible to overturn the car. When I come back, I will buy a better fish tank. Seeing that Xiaobai's mood had eased and stabilized, Luyu first set a flag for himself. Really? You can't lie to me. Hitsugaya Toshiro, who didn't have much pocket money, looked happy. Looking at Toshiro, who was so easy to pass up, Luyu wondered if it was time to give a little more pocket money. However, he immediately dismissed the idea. Boys should be poor and girls rich. When it is decided, move the share that should be given to Xiaobai to Hinamori Momo. When Hitsugaya Toshiro fell into a deep sleep at night, Luyu was lying in bed counting his booty. Today, he is also in no hurry to punch in. Luyu, who knows the rules, knows that every time he interacts with a new plot character, the reward level will basically increase. Therefore, today's punch-in opportunity can be used for tomorrow. Well, it can be used together with fixed-point punch-in. Maybe there will be surprises. With anticipation, Luyu began to integrate his reward and power system. Chapter 47. Looking at the punch-in records for the 31 days so far, Luyu began to summarize. The first is the Golden 3 God tier skills, the body of Super Soul, absolute concealment, and everything. These are my 3 strongest talents, basically laying the foundation for invincibility. Develop these 3 rewards to ultimate, and I can firmly become the peak combat power. These days, with the help of these 3 talents, I have obtained the 4 skills of Captain level Reiatsu, Shikai's Senluo Wanxiang, and excellent officer level Zongquan Ghost Walk. If I understand Yanluo's sword intent after perfecting Shikai, I can at least be promoted to slashing skills. Vice Captain. After that, deduct the messy items and the currency of 10 million rings, as well as 2 items and a book. One is the useless D-level watermelon hat, the other is the A-level treasure spirit time house capsule, and the last is the mushroom manual that has been comprehended to a certain extent. In addition, there is a skill book of basic spear skills that I took away, which can be ignored. This is the harvest of 31 days, which is very good and can be said to be a bumper harvest. These rewards are enough for Luyu to eat for a lifetime. Then the best remaining reward is the Spirit Time House Capsule, which can be used to ensure that the strength will be promoted to the captain level, that is, the level of 1 car punching the West. Therefore, to sum up, Luyu's conventional means of combat are the Zengquan Ghost Walk and the Instant Shadow Slash, which are also the best among the officers. His hidden cards include Captain Reiatsu, Absolute Hidden, Shikai, and the unformed Yanluo Sword Intent. In addition, the A-level item Spirit Time House Capsule is also a powerful whole card that can be cashed at any time. It can be said that although the strength under normal conditions is the level of a super genius, it is only the tip of his iceberg. This is still a state that has not fully realized its potential. After thinking about it, Lu Yu felt that in conventional combat, no officer would be his opponent. If he burst out with all his strength, the ordinary vice captain would definitely not be his opponent. But facing the captain level, it is still a bit difficult. If this kind of strength was just to cope with a normal graduation exam, Lu Yu could lie flat. Even in normal combat, he can easily pass the exam. But this is only for normal examinations. Before leaving today, Aizen's big blue face turned green. Even if this big boss didn't calculate his own thoughts before, he will definitely use the opportunity of the graduation exam to put eye drops on himself to fight him. It is estimated that the people of Tsunayashiro's family will not be safe either. These people control the video hall that monitors the present world and the Soul Society. The surveillance system in charge of this family is all over the Soul Society and the present world, and in the future, even parts of Hawako Mundo will be involved. Lu Yu knew that the Image Hall was a mysterious comprehensive intelligence agency. This department has a deep connection with the Technology Development Bureau. It can be said that they cooperate with each other, and sometimes exchange and obtain information for analysis together. In the original work, it was this department that discovered Rukia Kuchiki, who was active in the world as a corpse. The Image Hall was founded by the 5 nobles of the Soul Society. In name, those nobles took turns to control and act as managers, but in fact this powerful department has always been controlled by the Tsunayashiro family. With this department and the Great Spirit Book Corridor, the Tsunayashiro family can really be said to be the ones who control the history of Soul Society. More than 20 years ago, the Tsunayashiro family plotted the power of the Completebringers and sent people to slaughter the Completebringers who were summoned by Ginjo Kongo. Among them, the father of the top powerhouse Dao Yugenora died in this massacre. At that time, Mikihane was just a helpless girl with no relatives except her father. After the incident, the Tsunayashiro family revised the surveillance video, and the first agent, Shinigami Ginjo Kongo, was blamed for this matter. The framed Ginjo Kongo has since embarked on a path of no return. Of course, Lu Yu suspected that at this time, Tsunayashiro Tokunada started to interfere in the movie hall. But no matter what, if they can do this to Kongo Ginjo, they can do this to themselves. It's better to be careful with this. However, when it comes to the ability to do things, the Tsunayashiro family is not worthy of Aizen's shoes. Although he thought that no matter what kind of tricks Aizen used, he would be able to catch him, but he should be careful. Strategically despise the enemy, tactically pay attention to the enemy. Combined with the previous summary, Lu Yu has already thought of several countermeasures in his mind, and can quickly counteract various situations. One of the most reliable solutions is to perfect shikai everywhere, and then cut it all the way. If a person's brain turns quickly and his mouth is sharp, then he will always shut up and stop thinking, and the problem will be solved perfectly. Lu Yu thought so in his heart. Waking up the next morning, Lu Yu, Hitsugaya Toshiro joined Hinamori Momo for a top-notch meal first. After the meal, Lu Yu explained some things to Hinamori Momo, and by the way gave a lot of funds for the event. Originally, Hinamori Momo firmly refused, but Lu Yu said that this is an investment in the future, and it is also for the better growth of Hitsugaya Toshiro and Hinamori Momo. This amount of money is nothing to you in the future, or do you plan to follow in my footsteps and move forward together? Hearing Lu Yu say this, Hinamori Momo finally figured it out and accepted the large sum of money. In the blink of an eye, Hinamori Momo went from a poor man to a little rich woman. After dealing with the matter here, the three of Lu Yu walked towards the entrance of Spiritual Arts Academy. Looking at the 6 reincarnations who were a little nervous outside the door, Hinamori Momo and Hitsugaya Toshiro finally realized something and became silent. Only Lu Yu didn't seem to notice the somewhat heavy atmosphere. The fateful graduation exam was just around the corner. Lu Yu was still calm, and he didn't seem to feel any pressure. He also teased Hitsugaya Toshiro, who frowned slightly. Today is my big day, I'm going to be Shinigami soon, smile. I was born this way. Hitsugaya Toshiro rolled his eyes. Lu Yu was about to fight those monsters. Who can laugh at this? Give me a smile. Hinamori Momo put his hands on his hips. His serious little expression was not as scary as usual. When it comes to Lu Yu, Hinamori Momo is by no means ambiguous. Now she is very obedient. As long as it can make Lu Yu happy and pass the graduation exam, she is willing to do anything. Hinamori Momo in love is so daring to love and hate. Is this still a little peach like my own sister? Hinamori Momo, you have changed. Hitsugaya Toshiro grinned reluctantly, then calmed down. Lu Yu, come on, shout Taozi and I will wait for your good news. Don't worry. Lu Yu strode forward and waved to the two behind him. Go back and wait for my guy to spin. When Lu Yu disappeared completely, Hinamori Momo returned to the academy with Hitsugaya Toshiro with a disappointed face. In her heart, she has been praying to God to bless Lu Yu's safe return and become Shinigami smoothly. Chapter 48. Following a group of 6 reincarnations, Lu Yu walked towards the place where he passed through the gate. If at other times, an unfamiliar first-timer was mixed into the team, the group of 6th-timers would definitely ask curiously. However, the graduation exam is coming soon, and the thought of fighting against the real virtual makes these 6th forms, who have gone through a lot of battles, a little nervous. They didn't even notice that their group had mixed in with a big guy. It was like a strutting male lion mixed in with a group of nervous Madara deer. When he came to Xuanji Gate, Lu Yu saw Matsumoto Rangaku standing with a group of Kido. As soon as he saw Lu Yu, Matsumoto Rangaku walked over and asked with concern, "Are you nervous?" Lu Yu shook his head and said calmly, "If I'm still nervous with my strength, then the other 6 lives will be dead." Matsumoto Rangaku also remembered Lu Yu's strength at this time. In terms of talent, Lu Yu surpassed Ichimaru Jin, who graduated in just 1 year. Such a genius can't use common sense at all, and he really doesn't need to feel nervous. No way, Lu Yu's enrollment time is too confusing. Young geniuses like this, when they get along, will always make people ignore the strength of each other because of their age. However, in terms of real comparison of the two people's lifetime in Soul Society, Lu Yu is not much less than Matsumoto Rangaku. In fact, Soul Society is a mystery when it comes to age calculations. Things like age are only valid for adults who can grow up, and there is no Reiatsu's shape fixed at a certain age, so it has no reference value. Generally speaking, regardless of age, age can be calculated from the moment Reiatsu awakens. Most of the time, the presence or absence of Reiatsu is determined from the start. But occasionally there are people like Lu Yu who wake up Reiatsu later in life. Previously, Lu Yu did not have Reiatsu, so the age has not changed. Even if he existed in Soul Society for hundreds of years before, his age can also be regarded as 0 years old. That amounts to invalid time, which can be ignored. Of course, this is still very different from 0 years old, but it is also possible to say that Lu Yu is young. Lu Yu looked at the crowd around him and found that in addition to a large number of members of the 12th Division and Kido, there were also several members of the 4th Division. Although there was no captain present, he knew very well that Shinigami of Division 5 must be ready for rescue operations at any time. In Gote 13, the team flower of the 5th Division is Mazuimu, which represents sacrifice and danger. They are emergency rescue teams, and where there is danger, they are there. However, Lu Yu guessed that their captain, Hairspray Hand, Aizen must be peeping here now, not preparing for rescue, but thinking of creating a crisis. After waiting for a while, Lu Yu waited for an acquaintance. It was Kyoraku Shunsui who was in charge of reviewing Lu Yu's early graduation assessment qualifications. Today, the captain of the 8th Division is wearing the same clothes, but his expression is much more serious. Behind him followed a gentle, intellectual glasses lady. Lu Yu recognized at a glance that this was the Kido master Aiz Naneo, who was also the vice captain of the 8th Division. Just looking at this beautiful face and demure aura, it's hard to believe that this beauty like classical literature is the niece of the greasy uncle Kyoraku Shunsui. Kyoraku Shunsui, who was walking at the front, didn't look towards Lu Yu, but the vice captain Naneo eyes glanced at Lu Yu with curious eyes. As the existence at the top of Shinigami, the captain can attract everyone's attention no matter where he goes. Kyoraku Shunsui began his pre-assessment speech under the watchful eyes of the 6 reincarnations and Shinigami. He didn't speak rigidly, saying something like a dogma. Instead, he gave a witty and humorous speech, which made the already excited Lu Wusheng even more enthusiastic. Seeing that some of the quail-like 6 rebirths finally returned to normal, Lu Yu nodded secretly. It seems that the strongest captain, Shinigami Yamamoto, has trained Kyoraku Shunsui as his successor. Otherwise, he wouldn't let this not so serious captain come to brush his face. Obviously, this is a move to build momentum and fame. Just like Aizen likes to go to Spiritual Arts Academy Shikai Zanpakuto, he is all interested in the power of the new generation Shinigami. But this time, it won't be as you wish. Because, here I am. Then I wish you all a prosperous martial arts, and Guy returns. Kyoraku Shunsui ended his brief speech. The morale-boosted candidates began to walk through the gates in a row. And Matsumoto Rengaku, who was in charge of this assessment, was the first to pass through the gate under the guidance of Hell Butterfly. As for Lu Yu, he was assigned to the last row. The 6 Wisheng in the last row were different from the others. They were extraordinarily tall and had a sturdy expression. Lu Yu guessed that Shinigami, the alternate for the finale, was a special class member like himself. But they are the special class of the 6th grade, and they are the special class of the 1st grade. In this way, Lu Yu and a group of rebellious Lu Wisheng came to the gate of the world. Under the guidance of the Hell Butterfly leading to the world, they came to the gate of the world. The process of crossing the world is still very wonderful. There is only one road, and all around are pitch black, just like walking in a pitch dark alley. Ahead only the phosphorescence of the Hell Butterfly shone, like the little lights at the end of the alley. When walking through, Lu Yu felt the atmosphere around him carefully, but he did not feel the so-called power of the Spirit King. He knew that the original world was chaotic, and there was no distinction between the 3 realms at all. After that, the Spirit King was sacrificed to become a wedge, that is, an existence with the same boundaries, which divided the boundless primordial world into 3 worlds, the present world, Haweko Mundo, and Soul Society. It stands to reason that the power of the Spirit King can be felt at the borders of each world. However, Lu Yu didn't feel anything, not at all. It appears that this boundary is presented by a more complex form, not a simple division of forces. Of course, there could be other reasons. There are so many strange things and powers in the world of Shinigami, it is full of uncertainty. After a while, a hole of light with the size of a bowl appeared in front of it, and Lu Yu and the others followed Hell Butterfly into the light. Then they fell. Lu Yu, who was suddenly enlightened, suddenly felt that the surrounding spirits and the environment had changed. He could feel that the concentration of spirits here had dropped a lot, and when he looked up, he could see some modern buildings and factories. It's just that there is no one around, and there are several sky-reaching enchantments in the distance that cover this large area. This is Karakura town. In an instant, Lu Yu determined where he was, and then began to carefully sense and observe the surrounding environment and the aura of the aura. Chapter 49. Lu Yu, who came to Karakura town, did not choose to check in at the first time, but was very cautious and vigilant. The perception of the present world and Soul Society is still very different. At Soul Society, it was like soaking in warm water, so comfortable. In this world, it's like being in a dry desert, it's not that comfortable, but it's okay. Lu Yu felt that his power was partially weakened, but it was not so obvious. Shinigami fights with their own Reiatsu and Zanpakuto, unlike Quincy and Fullbender who need to manipulate external spirits. So even if the concentration of spirits in the outside world has dropped a lot, Shinigami's strength will not weaken too much. However, in order to prevent it from affecting the world and causing damage to ordinary people, when the vice captain and the captain level Shinigami come to the world, they must have a spiritual seal to limit their power, and can only exert about 20% of their power. When Lu Yu was looking around, he heard Shinigami, who received the lead, say, "There are 5 areas in total. Everyone can choose the area to act at will if they act alone, but they are not allowed to leave the enchantment range. Test." The 6 reborns who heard the announcement each chose a direction to start their actions. Lu Yu also walked in the direction with the fewest people. Coming to a secluded place, Lu Yu stopped and sensed it carefully. Is this the center of the world, Karakura town? Sure enough, it is a place of heavy spirituality, one of the central places of the plot. This spiritual force is not much worse than Soul Society. Of course, it can only be compared with the suburban areas of Rukongai, and the concentration of spiritual energy cannot even be compared to the 80th district. But compared to other places, it should be very good. Shinigami of the 13th Division set up a barrier that can isolate the real world because of the spiritual power here, and built a test room full of virtuality. Graduation exams are not worth mentioning to Lu Yu, nor are he most concerned about it. For him, punching at a fixed point is the most important thing. In Karakura town, Lu Yu recited in his heart to choose a fixed point check-in. At this time, he found that he needed to stop in one place, and it would take 10 minutes to clock in successfully. Fixed point punch-in does not consume the number of regular punch-ins, but there are still restrictions. However, this condition is too simple. Compared with the reward, this condition is nothing at all. In this case, Lu Yu simply thought, "System, I want to punch in." When he was idle, he was also idle. By the way, he used the number of punch cards that were useless yesterday. Congratulations to host for successfully checking in for the 32nd time and getting the mask of Jason, the murderer, the Cyan B grade item. It's a good start. It really is a new place and a new atmosphere. Lu Yu did not choose to take out the newly obtained treasure. He directly looked at the white hockey mask in the punch-in space with his consciousness, and thought with some surprise in his heart, "This thing is B-level, what effect does it have? Does cutting people's necks hurt?" Then, he patiently looked at the introduction of this Cyan B-level item. This is a mask from Crystal Lake Boy Jason. After wearing it, your image in the eyes of others will be solidified as a tall boy more than 2 meters tall. Remarks: Jason is always on the go. God special boy. God special meow will always drop God, Lu Yu complained in his heart. This guy, he naturally knew, came from the model worker, murderer of the Friday the 13th series. Jason was a drowned boy who had a miserable childhood and turned into a ghostly murderer after his death. The classic image is wearing a white hockey mask, holding a machete, tall, with inhuman strength and the ability to be resurrected infinitely. Jason is known as the captain of the Crystal Lake-style picket team, specializing in killing couples. Real people don't talk much, just kill or bury. He was sent to the grave again and again, and then crawled out of the Crystal Lake again and again to continue the hopeless job of killing people. The origin of this mask is not very good, but Lu Yu likes this feature very much, and it is acceptable to say that it is B-level. With this thing, and with the perfect shikai, he will be able to do a lot of pranks. Aizen has been performing for a long time, and it's his turn to show off. However, this mask can only be regarded as an appetizer, and the real meal is still to come. Perfect shikai's all kinds of things are the highlight. Lu Yu waited patiently, thinking about how powerful the perfect shikai really is. With the perfect shikai himself, he took another big step forward on the road to immortality. In front of the perfect shikai, all kinds of mysterious powers in this world will unveil the mystery to him. For example, the magical immortality and immortality can even divide the power of the spiritual king of the world. In addition to the divine power contained in the Yanluo mirror canon, other powers such as Shinigami, Void, Quincy, and Fullbringer can be analyzed and controlled by Lu Yu. It's no wonder that Lu Yu is so hungry for power, it's really a bit of an evil world in this world. Just like the Spirit King, who claims to be omniscient, omnipotent and powerful, after saving the world, he was cut into a stick and thrown into the 3 worlds. It is impossible to live, not to die. Diabo Luo Chang, a patient with pink octopus head, was directly with him. This is really outrageous to the extreme. One thing to say, Shinigami's world seems to have infinite possibilities, but in fact, the upper limit of each race and each individual has been determined. Even the world is planned, let alone the people in it. Without strength, you can't decide your own destiny at all, just like a world that is helplessly separated. People of each race seem to have endless time, but they can only repeat the same life, watching the passage of time helplessly, but their strength is standing still. This sense of despair can drive those geniuses crazy. Otherwise, the big boss Aizen and Urahara Kazuki would not violate the laws of Seraiti and invent dangerous things like Hogyoku. Even the 5 nobles have to learn to pretend to be deaf and dumb, pretending that they can't see the absurdity of this world. As human beings, those with high spiritual power will be calculated by others and hunted down by false ones. Those with weak spiritual power or even worse, the perfect tool man, the eternal worker, can only be exploited in his lifetime. When you are alive, you are a social animal. When you are dead, you are a social animal. Even worse than 996. Isn't this bullying honest people? There is no way out of it for eternity. As for Shinigami, whether it is the career limit or the strength limit, it is actually there. Not to mention empty words, born with an insatiable obsession, always in a state of dissatisfaction, and old miserable. It is even more difficult for the Quincy to be killed by the Shinigami, but to be careful of the backstab of his ancestors. In fact, in the original world, the emptiness is also the existence of the overlord level, but later the three worlds were divided, Shinigami was born, and the emptiness declined. Chapter 50. Lu Yu remembered that a Zanpakuto at the bottom of the Phoenix Temple was made of the sealed Taiku Mainos Grande. Its power is not much less than that of Yanluo Jingdian, which Lu Yu Izshin wants to capture divine power. In addition to Shu, Shinigami, and Quincy, there is also a relatively powerful group or power that is the power of full existence. The one who can manipulate the Reiki to use the Fullbringer is the Fullbringer. The full shower is more like a curse, because the body contains the fragments of the Spirit King, which will attract a large number of virtual attacks to pregnant women when the full shower is conceived. As a result, full showers are often born with tragedies. This Spirit King is the Spirit King who saved the world and then was torn apart by 5 horses. Dao Yugen Ora lost his mother when he was born for this reason. His father was afraid that his daughter would also suffer misfortune, so he locked Dao Yugen in a sealed basement and was isolated from the world for more than 10 years. This makes the extremely powerful Fullbringer have nothing to do with the world, so it is impossible to awaken the unique Fullbringer ability at all. Lu Yu did this calculation in his heart. This world shattering is really a pill. The world has problems at its root. In this case, it is up to me, Lu Yu, to create a better world, and I will stand at the top. Then start the first step from now. Lu Yu, holding the sealed state form, said silently. The system opens the fixed point punch card. Ding. The host and the current Karakura town have successfully punched in. Congratulations to the host for getting the perfect Shikai Shenluo Wanxiang. An extremely powerful energy poured into everything. Lu Yu suddenly felt a strange change in the sealed state in his hand, and at the same time a huge figure emerged from a distance. Call my name. A voice resembling Huang Zhang Dalu resounded in Lu Yu's mind. Just when Lu Yu succeeded in unlocking the perfect Shikai, Aizen and Ichimaru Jin were watching this scene from a row of surveillance instruments in the 5th team. At the same time, the signals of the Technology Development Bureau and the video hall have been replaced unconsciously. This area is completely out of the control and contact range of the Spirit Hall, like an isolated island. At this point, Aizen focused all his attention on the screen monitoring Lu Yu. And Ichimaru Jin glanced at a screen in the lower left corner with his peripheral vision. There, the blonde Matsumoto Rengaku is touring the exam room. She and the 2 examiners constantly used Reiatsu to probe the surroundings to make sure the entire exam was under control. Although there is an enchantment to isolate, but so many Shinigami students are gathered together, the temptation of the virtual is too strong. The attachment to the high-strength soul may lead to emptiness beyond the ability of the candidates, which requires them to be dealt with by the examiners. Silver, what do you think? Looking at the tall figure in the center of the screen who stood still for a long time, Aizen rarely showed an interested expression. From the known information, it seems that there is no such power that will exert a better effect in this world. In fact, whether it is Shu, Shinigami or Quincy, the power in this world will be weakened to a certain extent, because the concentration of spiritual particles is too low. But in such an environment, Lu Yu, who Aizen had been following for a long time, suddenly Shikai Zanpakuto in such a place as if he had an epiphany. This is not something that talent can explain, but a higher level of power. Aizen was keenly aware of the extraordinariness of Lu Yu. As a powerhouse approaching Shinigami's limits, he is interested in any force that defies common sense. Hearing Aizen's question, Ichimaru Jin looked back calmly. It's just Shikai, isn't it difficult to do with Lu Yu's Reiatsu? Aizen smiled and said, of course it can't be easy. Neither his Reiatsu nor Shikai can be that easy. First, Lu Yu has at least a captain-level Reiatsu, and can perfectly control and hide this part of Reiatsu, otherwise he and his companions wouldn't have any sense of wonder at my Reiatsu. Secondly, Lu Yu finished Shikai after he came to this world and stopped for a while. Why is that? Ichimaru Jin's squinting eyes widened a little. Hey, this is too ridiculous. Reiatsu just woke up with a captain-level Reiatsu, and he can control it perfectly. Is this really possible? However, that's the truth. Thinking of the Zaraki Kenpachi, who even needed the entire Seraiti to be restricted. Aizen was also taken aback for a while, and continued in a erratic voice. About 80 years ago, I used Hogyoku to steal the soul of a little girl. It turned out that the girl didn't die, and she had the qualifications to become a Shinigami. Lu Yu was just an ordinary person for the first 100 years, and suddenly a powerful Reiatsu erupted, and he awakened some kind of talent that could hide Reiatsu. The power of the two is neither Shinigami nor void, nor is it the power of Quincy and Fullbloom, it is a higher power. There is only one situation that can explain the unconventional behavior of the two, and that is the soul that is different from ordinary people. These two people can be said to be a match made in heaven to some extent, as if they were favored by fate. And now, these two lucky people are about to meet. Do you think that in the face of death, luck will continue to favor them? I don't know. Ichimaru Jin, whose face was a little gloomy, lowered his head. His left hand quietly held Shinso Zanpakuto around his waist. At this moment, Ichimaru Jin almost couldn't restrain his killing intent. Because on the monitor, a giant virtual with a hidden figure and Reiatsu was approaching Matsumoto Rengoku, who knew nothing about it. Aizen, damn you. In the examination room area of Karakura town, Matsumoto Rengoku is fighting with a ferocious monster. Just now, this huge phantom suddenly burst out of the void, killing two of his colleagues with one blow. After that, in order to cover the retreat of the Shinigami students, Matsumoto Rengoku did not have time to grieve for the sacrifice of his companions, and it was too late to apply for the lifting of restrictions. She just reported the situation in a hurry and chose to face this terrifying giant phantom alone. As the blonde hair fluttered, Matsumoto Rengoku snorted softly while dodging the monster's claws and slashes. Cry, Heineka. After Shikai's Heineka, only the square handle covered with red stripes was left, and the sharp blade was shrouded in a gray fog toward the giant void. The monster wearing a black mask screamed in the sky, murderous awe, waving its sharp claws and arms, and slashed towards the gray fog that Heineka differentiated. The terrifying invisible force spread, the atmosphere shook, and all things surrendered. It's just that whether it's the giant virtual Reiatsu or the sharp claws, it doesn't have the slightest effect in the face of the swept gray fog. The Shinigami students who heard this inhuman beast roar all around were trembling, and even those Lu Wusheng, who were originally full of rebellious expressions, felt fear in their hearts. Only Lu Yu raised his head indifferently, ignoring Reiatsu, who was enough to crush ordinary Shinigami, and released his perception. Then, his figure flashed and suddenly disappeared in place. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to